The reality on the ground here is everybody's feeling like it's great that the central government finally came out and said, okay, we're going to put some stimulus measures in place to help the economy. But it's still very unclear to investors, to businesses, just what that means in terms of scale.
Well, as you mentioned, those stimulus measures were welcomed by the markets, but it's not the first time we've had this bazooka, these measures to support the economy, the property sector, and to boost local government spending. Demand is still weak, though, so that means growth is still under pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think growth is very much under pressure. When you look at the stimulus that's happened so far this year, it's really kind of come out in drips, and it hasn't really done much to actually provide any kind of strong business confidence, and I think also importantly, any kind of consumer confidence here. And so you have a lot of households and a lot of companies, frankly speaking, sitting on cash right now that they're not putting into play, that they're not investing because they don't have a lot of confidence that there's actually a real plan in place that's going to drive the economy forward in a sustainable way. So I think that's a big issue right now. And I think just the fact that it's taken so long to get details out of the central government has probably given a lot of people pause, and it certainly has given investors pause. So I think that's what we're hoping for in the next few weeks.
So you talk about that plan and that policy detail. What numbers, what kind of detail would you like to see that could really bolster the economy in the year ahead?
Yeah, so I think the first part sort of has to do with scale. So when you look at what the market's been talking about, there have been suggestions that stimulus could look like anything from 1 trillion to maybe 3 trillion renminbi. So that's a pretty big spread. Yeah. If the actual numbers end up coming out kind of towards the lower end of that range, I think sentiment's going to be, well, maybe the government isn't really being aggressive enough, isn't doing enough to help jumpstart the economy. So I think the hope is that we're going to see larger numbers. So that's the first part. The second part is, how is that money going to be used? I think what came out this weekend was basically, oh, listen, we're going to help recapitalize the banks, make it easier for them to lend money, and we're going to help local governments get some of their bad off-book debt off their balance sheets by instead transitioning that debt to government loans. So superficially, that's all great. The problem is nobody knows how big those off-balance sheet loans are that local governments are carrying right now. So it's really hard to actually understand just how bad the problem is. And then on the bank lending side of things, right now, when I talk to company owners here, there's still a feeling that they don't really have strong domestic demand for their products. So they're not really interested in taking out loans until they see that consumer demand and company demand for their products and services starts to pick up.
Now, structural headwinds remain, don't they? But I'm thinking particularly of the real estate market. So do you think there needs to be a change in policy thinking for stimulus, however big or small it is, to really have an impact?
I think if I was looking for anything to happen right now, it would be a really strong structured plan to really push banks to lend not just to large companies, to state-owned enterprises, to really emphasize the fact that they have to be lending to private business, because ultimately that's what's going to jumpstart services sector and also jumpstart jobs for a lot of, especially the younger Chinese consumers right now who are staying out of the economy because they don't have work. So that's probably where I'd be putting the emphasis.